So here's the thing. I've been making short form videos that go viral for years now. I was shit talking Elon Musk back when lots of people thought that he was just a cool and epic electric car guy who is dating Grimes. People hated me for talking shit about this guy and saying that Teslas were death traps and that he's an emerald mine nepo baby and that he benefited from hiring the right people to competently guide his companies at best and utterly scam people at worst, that he wasn't a genius, that going to Mars instead of addressing wealth inequality and systems of corporate pollution is a dumb idea, that he's a grifter who promotes things that don't align with his personal interests only to back out of that support at the very last minute, and that the only thing that he was particularly talented at was being a showman who could effectively boost Tesla stocks and by extension his own wealth and status. I'm having flashbacks, man. They said, "What color's your Bugatti? You're meat riding this man who's saving the environment. Stop talking shit about Elon Musk so often." And I did. I made it a personal rule to stop Elon posting as often as I did for a long time because he truly was just a clown who was easy to slam dunk on. There were bigger fish to fry, more important political issues to talk about other than making points about how the world's favorite billionaire is a fucking weirdo who's magnificent at failing upwards and making the world a shittier place. What a situation we're in now. I literally have to talk about this guy against my will very often because he bought the United States and now every dumb thing he does is in direct proximity to the White House. I miss those days. I miss the days when this private citizen wasn't participating in cabinet meetings. I miss the days when a squad of 22-year-olds led by one Reddit edgelord wasn't firing government workers and internally destroying multiple government agencies in a way that was financially and contractually aligned with protecting and enriching said Redditors' companies. I miss the days when there wasn't a shadow president who says, "I am become meme," pretty much.
I am become meme. Yeah, pretty much. I'm just living the meme. It's like there's living the dream and there's living the meme, and it's pretty much what's happening, you know? You're like...
This guy owns the US. Hold on, actually, let me get my cowboy hat. Relax, liberal. It's called dark humor. This is the kind of thing that if he was not in a crowded room of knob gobblers, nobody would have laughed. And he would have repeated himself thinking that they didn't hear him, and then they would just continue not to laugh. We are cooked.
The left wanted to make comedy illegal, you know? Yeah. Like, you can't make fun of anything. So then it was like, comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's funny. You can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy.
Legalize comedy. This is so incredibly confusing and funny to me. Here is the thing. I do think that the left has some issues with puritanical ways of thinking and addressing comedy that I just don't really agree with. And as annoying as it is, it's a pretty minuscule issue and it's blown way out of proportion. And plus, everyone both on the left and the right are plenty guilty of this. Take the Tom Hanks situation. Looks like you snowflakes can't take a joke. And no, I'm not about to complain about cancel culture because I don't really think cancel culture exists, or at the very least, it's not characterized well. Look at me in the face and tell me that Kanye West isn't going to be just fine after dropping a litany of slurs, proclaiming himself to be a Nazi, and saying "Free P. Diddy" on Twitter. People are still going to support him. J.K. Rowling has a new job of being an online transphobe. She will also be fine. Matt Rife is doing better than he has ever been doing because he got canceled. And yes, there are small groups of people who are particularly loud on the internet who are all too often, unfortunately, associated with the left who demand accountability, whatever that looks like to them, for situations that most reasonable people would ignore or extend the benefit of the doubt under. 99% of the time, it's blown way out of proportion and the person in question just apologizes or ignores the criticism and everyone forgets about the situation within a month. And to be clear, I'm not talking about stuff like Kanye West saying slurs or people doing illegal stuff like sexually assaulting people. All that stuff is very serious and is not cancel culture. Getting in trouble over that stuff is not a new phenomenon. People have gotten boycotted over stuff like that way before cancel culture was a thing. I'm talking about low rent controversies that don't benefit anybody to waste time over. ever. Or digging up things that happened years ago as if the person in question is an entirely different person, and in the same vein, refusing to stop bullying someone who is clearly working on changing themselves. Another thing that happens is getting caught up in a game of telephone where people believe something without any proof, like what happened with Imogen Heap when everyone thought she was a transphobe like 2 months ago. The internet is breaking everyone's brains because we think that it's an acceptable place to put our rage because we don't see the other person on the other end of the screen. A separate topic for another day. Go to therapy! But with that being said, I don't understand this idea that comedy is illegal. This is just like objectively fake, and people are saying the same exact thing about this shit with political correctness in the 90s. Like, was comedy illegal back then too? No, it wasn't. People were saying wild shit that was acceptable during that time back then. Also, I feel like comedians, both progressive and conservative, right now are doing just fine. Progressive comedians are like putting out specials that get views, and they are never complaining about cancel culture because, you know, they're talented and they don't need to rely on punching down or being bigoted to be funny. And the comedians who do punch down and tell bigoted jokes, they do complain about cancel culture, but very ironically, because they already say all that shit to their hundreds of thousands of fans within their lucrative careers that are apparently in constant jeopardy because of this boogeyman concept. Also want to address this whole "you're not allowed to make fun of anyone" point. Yes, you can. You absolutely can, and people absolutely do. Let's be honest with ourselves. The thing that people get confused about is that the joke has to be funny for it to be widely acceptable. Gamers speak, it's a skill issue. You can make bad jokes all day long without getting in trouble with the public, but if you are going to make fun of other groups of people, you need to write a good joke. I know that Shane Gillis has gotten in trouble for saying slurs on podcasts, and I think that that ultimately strengthens my point, but with that being acknowledged, a good example of his jokes actually landing is the jokes he makes about people with Down syndrome. Those jokes are funny because they're coming from an honest and positive place. He has family members with Down syndrome and he wants to celebrate them instead of mock them. The lines between being an asshole by getting cheap laughs from people with hateful worldviews and telling a well-constructed joke is becoming less blurred. That's where a lot of comedy comes from, navigating uncomfortable topics and drawing humor from them. So many comedians do this without getting in trouble. Like, all these comedians do this without getting in trouble. And that's because they're talented. They're good at writing jokes. They don't punch down because being an asshole to other groups of people isn't really in right now. Not a lot of people find it funny because bigotry is less tolerated, which is a good thing. That's what this ultimately comes down to. Why not, instead of whining about it, you adapt and make comedy that more people can relate to? If you can't do that, I think that just means you're not funny. At this point, bigoted shock comedy is just considered hack comedy. It has completely lost its appeal, just like what's the deal with airline food type of jokes did in the 90s. And obviously lots of people don't think it's a joke, and they have the benefit of using comedy as this veil. Anyways, yeah, you should try moving forward instead of staying in the past, you fucking losers. Also, why are we taking comedy advice from this guy? This dude was so unfunny in SNL that it tanked the value of his stupid doggy coin. If I Am Become Meme is illegal comedy, then we gotta harshen these laws, guys. Beef up security. Also, the irony that Bill Burr's Twitter account was flagged after he made jokes about Elon Musk is not lost on me. Are we going to seriously sit here and act like anti-woke comedy is good? Give me one example of an anti-woke comedy that doesn't make the average person want to lock themselves in a metal box and swallow the key to escape. I'm not talking about, you know, like middle of the road, like Family Guy stuff. I'm talking about like loud and proud, conservative, anti-woke. Mr. Burcham? This is probably the best example that they have, and yet it's so incredibly unfunny. The jokes they make in the show are literally on par with, I'd like a pronoun burger with extra woke sauce and a side of gay fries, please. Like, even the target audience of this show hates it. Lady Ballers was just as bad. Also, if I was a conservative woman and I saw this movie, I would be upset with the main message of women are weak and inferior to men in all regards, and a random guy you pick up from a gas station could dog walk a highly trained woman athlete. And it's funny because this is not the original concept of the movie. They had plans for it to be an actual documentary. Like, a bunch of Daily Wire employees thought that they could just put on wigs and be able to compete against professional women athletes and effortlessly win because the people who put this together are sexist and have zero respect for women's sports. But uh-oh, they couldn't do that because they actually had to undergo the strict regulations of trans athletes being able to compete in women's sports. Don't even get me started with a new norm. I had to recently accept that this show is actually real and not satire. Again, if this is comedy, let's work overtime because it's not illegal enough. The biggest problem that like true comedy is illegal is that people like Musk think that there's like a top-down regulation of anti-woke comedy that stops it from doing commercially well. Like there's a shady cabal of woke lesbians and immigrants who make this kind of comedy not perform well and thus not be popular. But the truth is, rarely does anti-woke comedy have the sauce to begin with. Like, if you really want stuff like this to be popular, find out how to obtain comedians who are good at writing a joke instead of opportunistic and frothing at the mouth to pluck a low-hanging fruit. Turns out, conservative comedy is just kind of like that, and talentless comedians are absolutely repulsed by this concept. Anyways, have a nice day and show me my patrons. See ya.